This manhwa follows a streamer who accidentally downloads a cursed game where he must date a ghost girl. To survive, he must win her heart and help her move on, or face a deadly fate. Let's begin. The story kicks off on a stormy night. Rain pours outside as a terrified boy frantically sprints through a dimly lit building, chased by a grotesque, shadowy creature. Desperate, he rushes into a restroom, slams the door shut, and locks himself inside. Panting heavily, he tries to calm his breath, until he hears something above him. Slowly, he looks up, and there it is. The creature is peering down at him from the ceiling. Before he can even scream, it lunges, devouring him in an instant. Suddenly, a scream echoes, not from the boy, but from Choi Do-yeon, our protagonist. Turns out, he was playing a VR horror game. Gasping for air, he scrambles to sit back in his chair. The chat window in front of him explodes with laughter. Meet Choi Do-yeon, a third-year variety streamer, currently live on his broadcast. His audience had forced him into this horror game, and now they're absolutely roasting him for getting so scared he fell out of his chair. Embarrassed, Do-yeon shoots back, saying that this game is way scarier than it looks, but his viewers aren't letting up. They dared him to play this horror game, and now they're pushing him to finish it. Do-yeon groans, half joking. You guys just want to see me pass out again, don't you? But despite the teasing, he powers through and miraculously completes the game in one go, something his viewers didn't expect at all. A viewer donates, asking if Do-yeon would have stayed in the game longer if the ghost was hot. He chuckles, brushing it off. What kind of question is that? A ghost is still a ghost. If one looks pretty to you, that just means you're already under her spell. But just as he's about to end the stream, someone brings up Saji, another streamer and a friend of his. Apparently Sagi hasn't streamed in over a month. When chat asks if something happened to him, Do-yeon hesitates. He hasn't been able to reach him either. He suddenly recalls a conversation they had. He is telling the MC to do whatever he wants to do because back when Sagi's family opposed his streaming at first, but changed their tune once he made money. Meanwhile, Do-yeon, already planning a trip home, decided to check on Sagi, sensing something might be wrong. After signing off, Do-yeon tries calling Sagi again. No answer. He tries multiple times, but the number is unreachable. He even considers filing a police report. Just then, his mother calls, asking where he is. He reassures her that he's leaving now and will arrive by dawn. As he leaves his room, his computer screen flickers. A blurry message pops up, but he doesn't notice. Later, at a rest stop, Do-yeon checks his phone and sees a new message from his friend. MC thinks it's just a link. Still unable to call him, Do-yeon sighs and clicks on it. It leads to a game titled Dugun Dugun Ghost Love. The game description: ghosts with lingering regrets remain in this world. To help them pass on, you must win their hearts with love. Do-yeon scoffs. What a weird concept. Curious, he clicks Install. The moment he does, lightning strikes, startling him. As he looks back at his phone, an eerie notification appears. Girls who die with regrets can summon snowfall in midsummer. Once started, this game can't be quit. Install? Do-yeon shrugs. He has nothing better to do at home anyway. Maybe it'll be fun to try on stream. He taps yes and pockets his phone. Then, his navigation system suddenly activates. It's raining heavily as Do-yeon drives down the highway. He frowns. There wasn't any rain in the forecast. Then, his GPS speaks. Take the next left. Do-yeon scoffs. Left? That's ridiculous. This is a highway. But then, his GPS reroutes again and again, bombarding him with instructions to turn. Annoyed, he silences it. Just then, he sees something. A figure standing in the middle of the road. His heart lurches. He slams the brakes, but it's too late. The figure is sent flying. Do-yeon barely manages to stop the car. His hands are shaking. Did he just hit someone? Panicked, he rushes out to check. The girl's lying on the road, unmoving. His mind races. Ambulance? Police? He fumbles for his phone, and then a notification pops up. A girl hit by a car on the highway. Panic and fear lasted only for a minute, until I realized she wasn't from this world. Do-yeon freezes. A game menu appears. A. She's a ghost. Run. B. Ask why she's lingering here. C. Demand compensation for car repairs. Horrified, Do-yeon ignores the options and presses his home button, but his phone doesn't respond. He jabs at the power button. Nothing. His breath catches. The girl slowly stands up. Her head tilts forward, her dark, wet hair covering her face. She stares at him, her eyes full of sorrow and resentment. The girl suddenly speaks. Why? Did you kill me? Do-yeon's body locks up. She takes a step forward. Why? Did you let me die? His instincts scream, run! He turns, and at that moment, he automatically selects option A. Do-yeon bolts. Behind him, the girl calls out, you're just like the others. A new notification appears. Your choice has disappointed her. Affection level decreased. She trembles. Why does everyone abandon her? Her sorrow turns to rage. Another alert. Her affection level has turned neutral to hostile. You must escape. Now. Do-yeon reaches his car and desperately yanks the door handle. It won't open. A cold hand grips his shoulder. He turns slowly. She's right there. Her hands wrap around his throat. Pinned to the ground, he finally sees her face clearly. She's beautiful. Tears stream down her cheeks. Why won't you save me? Do-yeon's mind flashes back. If a ghost looks pretty, that means you're already under her spell. A truck suddenly speeds toward them. In his final moment of clarity, he wonders, has he already been possessed? The truck slams into them. And then, a final notification appears. The MC must win her heart and resolve her grudges to restore her true form. The protagonist suddenly finds himself back at the place he was staying before, and as he opens his eyes, an unbearable pain shoots through his entire body. It feels like his bones are shattering. The agony is so intense that he can't help but scream. Hearing his cries, an old man rushes toward him. Are you okay? The old man asks, but the protagonist, barely able to breathe, huffs and stumbles back. Stay away, he warns, his body still trembling from the pain. As the sharp sensation begins to fade, he looks around in confusion. How did he end up here? Just a moment ago, he was on a highway. Was that all just a dream? Then, a sudden ding from his phone. A notification pops up. You have died. Respawning at the starting point. The date is ongoing. If you do not wish to continue, leave the area immediately. His eyes widen as he stares at the message. His hands tremble as he checks his device. His stats are displayed. His progress is still intact. The old man calls out again, asking if he's all right. But the protagonist doesn't stick around to answer. Heart pounding, he bolts straight to his car. None of this makes sense. It must be a hallucination. Maybe he's just losing his mind because of that stupid app he installed. As he speeds down the highway, he tries to convince himself that this is all a delusion. He just needs to get home, take a break, and clear his head. But then, his GPS device starts bombarding him with a flood of instructions. The more the GPS directs him, the more he realizes, this isn't a coincidence. This is happening again. And then, out of nowhere, she appears. The same girl from before. His eyes widen in horror as she stands in the middle of the road. He slams the brakes. This time, the car actually stops. His hands are shaking. His mind is in chaos. Why is this happening to me? He screams. I was just playing a game live streaming. Now what the hell am I supposed to do? At least give me some kind of explanation? As if answering him, his phone buzzes with another message. As you struggle between dream and reality, she appears before you once again. He grips his phone tightly. His heart pounds in his chest. This is a game. He's a gamer. He can do this. Then, another notification pops up. A choice. A. Turn the car around and escape. B. Get out and yell in anger, demanding answers. C. Offer to drive her home. D. Ask what she's doing here. He stares at the options, his mind racing. He has to choose carefully. If he picks the wrong one, he might end up like last time. As he hesitates, a sharp knock echoes through the car. He turns and sees her. The ghost girl is staring at him through the window. Her face is filled with pain and desperation. Why did you run away? She asks, her voice trembling. Why am I the only one suffering? Her fingers curl into fists as she slams them against the window over and over. It's not fair, she cries. His body is frozen in fear. His instincts scream at him to flee, but he swallows hard, forcing himself to stay calm. After a moment, he slowly opens the door. I don't know what's going on, he says cautiously, but I'm not a bad person. If you need help, I'll help you. He gestures toward the passenger seat. Get in, I'll take you home. The girl falls silent. She doesn't move. A cold sweat forms on the protagonist's back. Did he choose wrong? Did he just make another mistake? Then, She takes a step forward. Her voice is barely above a whisper. You can see me? He nods. Yeah, I can. The next moment, she lunges at him. Before he can react, she wraps her arms around him, hugging him tightly. His breath catches. Her body is ice cold. She trembles against him, her voice breaking as she cries, Please, don't leave me behind. I don't want to be alone anymore. I've been alone for so long. His phone vibrates again. Favorability increased slightly. Her condition is stabilizing. He looks down at the girl in his arms. Her sobs shake her entire body. Just how much pain has she endured to cry like this? After a moment, he gently pushes her back. Look, I get it, but I'm still human. If I stay out in this rain much longer, I might die of hypothermia. Can we at least sit inside the car? She sniffles and nods. A few minutes later, they're both inside. The protagonist exhales sharply, still trying to process everything. He checks his phone. He downloaded a game. And now, he's on a date with a ghost. If this is a dating sim, shouldn't I at least get a proper choice? He mutters. A loud horn blares behind him. His head snaps up. It's the same truck that killed him last time. His pulse spikes. He needs to get out of here. Staying on the highway too long is dangerous. First, he needs to move to a safe location. He starts the car, but then he notices something. The door on the passenger side isn't properly shut. He turns to the girl. Hey, the door. Can you check if it's locked properly? Before she can respond, he leans over to fix it himself. But his hand slips, and suddenly he falls forward, landing right in her lap. Silence. He blinks. Slowly, he looks up at her. Her eyes are wide. She looks absolutely terrified. And in that moment, he realizes he just made another mistake. The protagonist knew this wasn't just some simple mistake. The girl, trembling and in tears, accused him. Was this why he had brought her here? Desperately, he tried to explain. It was all just a misunderstanding. He'd simply been closing the door properly. He thought he was going to die. He stammered out excuses, insisting that he had no bad intentions, that he was harmless, that he only tried to help because he thought ghosts couldn't close doors. As the girl continued to shake, he apologized again and suggested they move to the nearest rest stop. It wasn't safe to stay here. But instead of calming down, she shot him a sharp glare. Seeing her reaction, he quickly backtracked, saying that if she didn't want to go, that was fine too. Then, suddenly, she chuckled. Her laughter caught him off guard. She wiped her tears and explained that she had been scared, worried that he might be some kind of weirdo. But now, she felt relieved. She then introduced herself as Ha Yeon and asked for his name. As they drove, Yeon thanked him again, acknowledging that he must be busy, yet still chose to help her. The protagonist shrugged it off, saying it was just a slight detour. Yeon then softly admitted that it had been so long since she had a conversation like this. She had already given up hope of ever talking to anyone again. The protagonist, sensing the weight of her words, hesitated before asking why she had been on the road. But he reassured her that she didn't have to answer if it was too painful. He was just curious. Yeon gave a faint smile before revealing the truth. She didn't fully understand what had happened either. All she remembered was being dragged by a man she had never seen before. The next thing she knew, she was on the highway. At first, she thought she had survived, but something felt wrong. No matter how much she called out for help, people ignored her, walking past like she wasn't even there. She tried leaving, walking along the road, but no matter how far she went, the road never ended. That's when she realized she had died. She was trapped here, alone, unable to leave, until she met him. Tears welled up in her eyes as she confessed how much it meant to finally talk to someone. And now, maybe, she could finally see her family again. The protagonist sat in stunned silence, struggling to process her words. As they reached their destination, he hesitantly asked, "What if her family couldn't see her?" She paused, then smiled gently. "If that happens, I'd like to stay with you a little longer." The protagonist was shocked by her response, but she quickly reassured him that he didn't have to look so surprised. It was embarrassing. Instead, she asked if he could at least deliver a final message to her family. He nodded, agreeing to help. But as they drove, his mind raced. Was she really just a character in a game? If so, why did she feel so real? He had so many questions, but before he could make sense of it all, a notification popped up on his phone. Your first midnight date is ending. Confused, he turned to Yeon, only to see her body beginning to fade. She looked at him apologetically. I'm sorry. After everything you did for me, I didn't want to disappear like this. But the thing is, I only seemed to regain my senses at night. Before she vanished completely, she made one final request, if he could just help her a little longer. The protagonist, after a brief hesitation, told her that he'd be at his parents' house until tomorrow, so he had time. Yeon's eyes widened in surprise. He admitted that there was still so much left unsaid, and he wanted to meet her again. Same place, same time. Yeon smiled. I'll definitely be waiting. And with that, she disappeared. Another system notification appeared. Romance score calculating. The system tells the MC that he has gained 40 LP points. His romance rank is B, and the LP store has been unlocked. Staring at the screen, the protagonist muttered, "What the hell is this?" He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Who was Yeon? Was she really just a game character? If so, then why did she feel so real? And what kind of game even was this? Morning finally came. As the protagonist recalled everything that had happened, he received a message from his friend, asking him to come over. Hoping for answers, he headed to his friend's place. But something felt off. The door was left open. Calling out his friend's name, he stepped inside, but there was no response. The protagonist noticed his friend's computer and a few posters, but then his eyes widened in shock. Among them was a missing person poster of Yeon. As he stared at it, lost in thought, a presence crept up behind him. A twisted, eerie-looking bunny stood there, silently watching him. The protagonist stared at the missing person flyer of Yeon, confusion creeping into his mind. Why is she on a recent missing persons flyer? And why is it here, in a house belonging to someone who never leaves, just sits inside playing games? His eyes scanned the other posters on the wall. Most were about murder cases and disappearances. A disturbing realization hit him. Yeon had told him she was killed by a man she had never seen before. And now, looking at these cases, he recalled seeing some of them on the news. If that was true, then the people who were unjustly murdered were becoming ghosts and appearing in this so-called game. A cold shiver ran down his spine as he reached for a notebook lying nearby. He flipped it open, his heart pounding as he read the words inside. Ghosts appear where they die, or in places tied to strong memories. While they have a physical form, they can't wander far. Most vanish in the mornings due to strong, positive energy. The game cannot be quit or deleted. The only way forward is to increase their affection level and reach an ending. MC's hands trembled. What is this? Before he could process any further, the fire alarm suddenly blared. He spun around, his breath caught in his throat. The ghostly bunny girl from earlier stood before him, her body engulfed in flames. She was closing in, murmuring unintelligible words. Then, system notification. Her affection level has reached hatred. Escape immediately. MC's entire body froze in terror. She glared at him, and in that instant, the gas nearby ignited. An explosion rocked the room. Thrown to the ground, MC barely processed what was happening. His mind reeled. What the hell is this game? And why did his friends send it to him? Amid the chaos, his eyes landed on a piece of paper, his friend's handwriting, an apology. MC's heart pounded. Why is he apologizing? What is he asking me to do? Before he could react, the bunny girl lunged at him. And then, MC gasped awake. He was back at his save point. His entire body shook. Why? Why is this happening to me? Still trembling, he reached for his phone, trying to call his friend again. No signal. Out of coverage. Panic set in. What the hell is my friend doing? The more he thought about it, the more it became clear. He was completely trapped. No matter what he did, he couldn't delete the game. Even if he threw his phone away, it would just reappear. And worst of all, there was a limit to his lives. At first he wasn't sure, but now, looking at the UI, he saw it. The missing numbers. 2 lives already gone. Holding his head, he whispered to himself, a ghost dating sim, where you bet your own life. This makes no sense. Then, his thoughts drifted to the notebook from his friend's house. If he could get it again, maybe he could find more answers. But going back there now? Impossible. For now, he had to focus on Yeon. Sitting around wouldn't change anything. He had promised to help her. Determined, MC started searching for Yeon's family. MC asks an old lady about Yeon's family, and she tells him they moved out over a year ago, after their daughter went missing. When MC asks for their whereabouts, she advises him not to look for them, as they've moved on with their younger daughter. Walking away, MC wonders if Yeon's family even knows she's dead. Realizing his visit was meaningless, He's unsure of what to do next. Just then, his phone rang. It was his mother. Her voice was sharp. "Why haven't you come home yet? Your brother's already here, and your father's on the way." MC sighed. "Something urgent came up. I'll be there tomorrow." As he hung up, his eyes fell back on the missing poster. The notebook said, "Spirits disappear in the morning, but that bunny ghost appeared in daylight." Does that mean Yon's body hasn't been found yet? Gripping the flyer, he thought to himself, if we find her body, will Yon finally be free? With that in mind, he headed back to his car. As night fell, Yon sat alone on the side of the highway, waiting. A pair of headlights appeared in the distance. Her eyes lit up with hope. Is that him? She stepped forward, raising a hand to stop the car, but it passed by without slowing down. Disappointment settled in, but she reassured herself. MC promised he'd come. Not much time has passed yet. There's no need to rush. Minutes turned to hours. The sky darkened further, and soon, raindrops began to fall. She curled up at the edge of the road, hugging her knees. Just then, a familiar voice broke through the rain. "Yon!" She lifted her head. MC stood there, looking at her with concern. Tears welled in her eyes as she stumbled toward him, burying her face in his chest, saying she thought he wouldn't come. MC sighed, guilt evident in his voice. "I'm so sorry. I took a short nap, but I didn't realize I'd slept for so long. I promise, next time, I'll be here earlier." MC glanced at her and asked, "Why were you sitting out there like that?" Yan lowered her head, her face slightly flushed. "I'm just so embarrassed about what happened earlier. I just want to crawl into a hole." MC hesitated before speaking. "I went to your house today." Her eyes lit up. "Really? How's my family? Did they talk about me?" His expression darkened. "I heard from someone that they moved away. It's been a year. Someone else lives there now." The light in her eyes faded. She looked down, silent. MC gently suggested, "Let's go to a convenience store and talk." As they sat inside, he told her his plan. Maybe they could try contacting her parents directly, and if that didn't work, maybe they could report it to the police. "We should try everything we can." Yan looked at him, touched. "Why are you helping me so much? I have nothing to give in return. You could have just ignored me." MC's mind screamed, "Because this stupid game is killing me." But of course, he couldn't say that. Just as he was about to respond, system notification, choose your answer. 2 choices appeared before him. 1, because you're my type. 2, because I feel bad for you. The timer ticked down. Panicked, he blurted out, "Because you're my type." Yan went completely silent. Then, "My type? Do you have a ghost fetish or something?" MC stammered. No. It's just, you were crying, and I wanted to help. That's all." "You didn't come here deliberately, right?" Yan questioned. The story begins outside a motel where MC has parked his car. He and Yan are on their way to a convenience store, a place she picked. But suddenly, Yan starts teasing him. Twirling her hair, she hints that some people help others, but later demand money or favors in return. Her voice wavers, and tears gather in her eyes as she says, "If it weren't for you, I'd still be wandering alone. And if I don't do anything to repay you, I'll be kicked back onto the streets." MC, caught off guard, assures her he never even thought about asking for anything in return. But then, Yan suddenly laughs. She was just testing his reaction. Annoyed, MC scolds her for messing with him like that. She only grins, saying that now she feels a little more at ease. MC isn't the type of person she should be afraid of. But before their conversation can continue, they realize the convenience store is closed. MC suggests looking for another one, but Yan has a different idea. Instead of heading back, why not take shelter from the rain and chat for a bit? MC hesitates as Yan subtly gestures toward the nearby motel. Inside, Yan jumps onto the bed, stretching out comfortably. She sighs, saying it's been forever since she slept on something soft. Before this, she spent every night wandering highways, hearing nothing but the distant cries of deer. Then, she pats the bed and invites MC to lie down next to her. MC panics and quickly tells her not to say things like that. The viewers might misunderstand. Yan just smirks as MC hurriedly takes off his jacket and changes the subject. He tells her something important. Ghosts, with their bodies left behind, tend to linger near the place they died, and when the sun rises, they disappear. Then, he pulls out a missing person flyer. It's Yeon's. According to the authorities, she went missing 2 years ago. Even now, she's still listed as missing. Yeon looks stunned. When MC presses her for details, she hesitates before recalling the night she died. She had been heading home after work when a car suddenly crashed into her. Barely conscious, she saw a man, drunk and staggering, step out of the vehicle. Instead of helping her, he called someone. Then, when he realized she was still alive, he approached her and strangled her until she passed out. Then, he put her into his car and took her somewhere. The last thing she remembers is seeing a rose tattoo on his hand. He brought her to an abandoned warehouse filled with containers and boxes. Beyond that, her memory is hazy. She doesn't remember much else. MC asks if she knew the man, but Yeon shakes her head. I've never seen him before. MC clenches his fists. It all makes sense now. The accident was caused by reckless driving, and out of fear of punishment, the man impulsively decided to dispose of Yeon's body. MC stands up, determined. They need to find that warehouse. If they can pinpoint its location, they might be able to find Yeon's body. He turns to her, eyes burning with resolve. We should catch the killer together. A murderer should pay for their crimes, don't you think? Then, he asks if she has any family contacts. If they can get her family involved, things will go much smoother. But Yeon hesitates. It's been so long. What if her family stopped looking for her? What if she only hurts them more by showing up now? MC tells her that's not true. Her family went through so much trying to find her. They even moved away because living in the same place reminded them of her presence. When he asks about her family, Yeon whispers that they were really close. MC tells her, just from hearing all this, I can tell. Your family misses you. You're not the only one who wants to see them again. And even if things don't go as planned, he'll help her, however he can. Yeon's eyes widen. Then a small, genuine smile appears on her face. She feels touched. MC's actions have raised her affection level. Later that night, they find her father's name on Kakao Talk. Yeon gasps as she sees it. He's still using the same account, but just as she reaches for the phone, her hand slips, and she falls onto MC's chest. Their eyes meet. Then, Yeon suddenly chuckles. What's with that expression? MIC, completely flustered, shoves her away. You're heavy. Get off. Yeon laughs again. Your ears are turning red. Did you get excited? MC pushes her back with both hands. Stop messing with me. Feeling embarrassed, MC quickly announces he's going to take a shower. It's been 2 days since he last washed up, and he feels gross. Before heading to the bathroom, he tells Yeon they need to think carefully about what to say when contacting her family. She agrees. As soon as MC leaves, Yeon flops onto the bed, letting out a deep sigh. This whole time, she's been teasing him without realizing it. But the truth is, just being together like this is fun. For the first time, she wishes morning would never come. Meanwhile, inside the bathroom, MC is standing under the water, blushing hard as he recalls everything that just happened. But outside, MC's phone starts ringing. Yeon walks up to check it. The caller ID reads, Sakya Hyung. The scene shifts. MC's friend is calling him over and over, desperately asking him to pick up. But as he turns around, his expression shifts. Someone is standing behind him. A creepy-looking girl is staring at him, and then she speaks. Why did you run away? He freezes. You told me I was pretty. We were supposed to go on a date. So why are you running? As our protagonist tries calling his friend, he's met with silence. No response. A sense of unease creeps in, but before he can dwell on it, Yeon speaks up. She apologizes, admitting she should have told him something earlier. The MC reassures her, saying it's fine. If nothing is wrong, his friend will call back later. But despite his words, he glances at his phone again, unable to shake his concern. Later that night, as they prepare to sleep, Yeon hesitates before asking, Are you sure you'll be okay sleeping on the floor? MC chuckles, saying it's no big deal. He even sleeps on the floor when his back hurts. Curious, Yeon continues, By the way, what do you do for a living? And when did you start seeing ghosts? Is your family from a shaman lineage? NMIC shakes his head. No, nothing like that. I'm just a game streamer. I've never had any connection to the supernatural. You're actually the first ghost I've ever seen. Yeon looks at him, surprised. So you just suddenly started seeing them? Yeah, he replies. A strange sense of relief washes over Yeon. She smiles, almost teasingly. So, I'm your first? Then, her expression shifts to curiosity. I want to visit your apartment. and see how you broadcast. MC hesitates. My place is small and kind of messy. Jan grins. That just makes me want to go even more. He sighs, giving in. All right. Once we take care of everything, I'll invite you over. As the first light of dawn creeps in, Yane's form begins to fade. Before she completely disappears, she looks at him. Can we meet again tomorrow? Before he can answer, she vanishes. MC stares at his device as a notification appears. His date has ended, and his romance score is being calculated. A ranking pops up. A rank. The scene shifts, and MC finds himself standing outside his parents' apartment. His hands tremble as he struggles to open the door. After a moment, he finally pushes it open and steps inside. His father stands in front of him, staring in silence. Despite feeling uneasy, MC forces himself to ask, "Have you been doing well?" His father doesn't respond. Before the tension can settle, his mother calls him, saying that you're here. The family gathers for a meal. As they eat, his father turns to his brother. How's life been? I'm getting used to it, his brother replies. Their father nods but warns, don't let your guard down. Becoming a doctor isn't easy. MC's mother immediately scolds him. Why are you putting pressure on someone who's already doing well? But his brother simply shrugs. It's fine. He went through it too. He's probably just speaking from experience. Then their mother turns to MC. And you? How have you been? He hesitates before answering. I'm managing somehow. But deep inside, he knows the truth. He ran away from this house 3 years ago. He has no right to be here. As he prepares to leave, his brother stops him. Where are you going? Just the convenience store, MC replies. His brother watches him carefully. 3 years is a long time. Don't you think it's time to get your life together? Frustration bubbles inside MC. This has nothing to do with you. I'll handle it myself. He leaves the room. Then, his phone vibrates. A message from Yon's father. I'm sick of this. Stop contacting us. Leave our family alone. We've moved on. MC stares at the screen. Then, without hesitation, he runs. Straight to a store, where as he grips the handle, he sighs. First, I wasted money on gas, then motel fees. Now a shovel. I might have to survive on instant noodles this month. But he doesn't stop. He remembers. The dating system in this game rewards LP based on relationship scores. LP can be used to buy items in the shop. Among the purchasable tools, one stands out. A magnifying glass. It allows him to uncover one crucial piece of information about his target. He buys it. Then, he heads to his destination, an abandoned warehouse. There are only 3 warehouses nearby with containers. Even in photos from 2 years ago, this was the only location with containers. How is he going to find the tree with a hole in it? He sighs, trying to stay optimistic. Something is better than nothing. As the sun begins to set, exhaustion creeps in. This is impossible. It's like looking for a single tree in a forest full of them. Maybe he's overthinking this. Maybe he doesn't have to find it himself. If he convinces Yeon's family, they can handle it instead, right? But before he can consider giving up, his foot snags on something. Tree vines. He stumbles, falling hard onto the ground. Lying there, he groans. Maybe I should start exercising. Then, as he stares at the sky, a thought creeps in. What am I even doing? Why am I going this far? He remembers the first time he met Yeon. If deleting this game was all he wanted, there had to be an easier way. But he kept going, because the thought of her being left alone in sorrow was unbearable. With newfound determination, he pushes himself up. And then, he sees it. The tree. His breath catches. He grabs the shovel and starts digging. As the dirt gives way beneath him, images of Yeon flash through his mind. Then, his shovel hits something. Something solid. He digs faster, hands shaking. And then, he sees it. A skeleton. Yeon's skeleton.